What's up, nerds? It is poor man's Nick Fury, Matt Roth, editor-in-chief for nerdinitiative.com here, and today we are going to spoil 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. It is the latest film from Alex Garland in this 28 Years Later franchise. It is directed by Nia DaCosta, absolutely incredible director, and it obviously stars Jack O'Connell is here as Sir Jimmy Crystal, Alfie Williams is back as Spike, and then we do have Ralph Fiennes as Dr. Ian Kelson. This picks up right where 28 Years Later left off last year. So make sure you subscribe to Nerd Initiative everywhere on YouTube, hit the notification button, never miss an episode, and then subscribe to us on podcasts, Instagram, social medias, all that stuff. I am here with our senior movie writer, Chris. What is up, Chris?
How's it going? I'm really happy to be here to talk about 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. I saw it last night. I think you saw it the night before I did. And
yeah, opening night here, you know. I've been waiting on you. Like, typically it's you going to see a movie first, but for once I actually got to see this one before, and I left the movie theater. I'll tell you straight up, I left the movie theater just sitting here like, wow. I was a big fan. How did you feel about 28 Years Later? You know, it kicks off this trilogy from Alex Garland. So Alex Garland did 28 Days Later. He didn't do 28 Weeks Later, which was the only one he hasn't touched. And then we're finally back 28 Years Later last year, which had Aaron Taylor Johnson, it had Ralph Fiennes, it had Alfie Williams. And this picks up from there, right where we left off with the group of Jimmies who, if you are not well versed in your British, if you will, your United Kingdom lore, Jimmy Savile was a very popular gentleman who has some pretty dark stuff to him. So that's what makes this so twisted. And Jack O'Connell's back. And if you saw him in Sinners, if you saw him in the other shows, you know you're in for a ride. So spoiler-free thoughts first, Chris. How do you feel about this film?
Spoiler-free thoughts. I thought it was very self-contained. I think it serves exactly the purpose it's supposed to. It is a bridge from point A to point B, or really in this case, point C, since we are getting a trilogy out of it. But it can exist on its own. I know a lot of people were kind of like weirded out by the end of 28 Years Later.
Yeah, they were like, it didn't fit. It doesn't. It was more of like an epilogue, you know. It sets up this movie essentially.
Exactly. And it sets this movie up so well that like it's almost like a continuation.
Oh yeah.
Keeps going, it keeps pushing the narrative forward, and that's important, especially when you're doing a trilogy.
It is, and I'm with you 100%. I mean, you know, the 28 Years Later, it was pretty much, you know, Spike, he does meet Dr. Kelson, and his mom has cancer and she ends up dying, of course. And it was very sad. And so Spike's out on his own. He left. His dad, Aaron Taylor Johnson, was kind of a piece of junk back there at their little castle thing. And also we really got a taste of what it's very interesting to me because this is so contained to the United Kingdom where you know that there is life going as normal outside of this quarantine. It's such an interesting aspect to me that I feel like they kind of glossed over with, what was it, the Swedish military guy in 28 Years Later.
Yeah. And that was a big departure from when they did 28 Weeks Later, because it was spread and then
you thought, yeah, the way they showed it is they're in Paris and everything's overrun and the world's over. But I like that it's not actually.
Me too. And I think that was one of the touches that they did retroactively that worked really, really well, because it really takes the emphasis off of the zombies and all of that, because that zombie movies have a tendency to focus on that, where 28 Years Later and 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple focus more on the people. Like the zombies are there, but they're more like subtext. It's something that exists and you're dealing with, and it's on this contained island, right? Like life is going on elsewhere, but in England, in the UK, it's not.
It's really not. And so kind of jumping into spoilers now, you know, speaking of the typical zombie formula is, yeah, they focused really, the zombies tend to be a background driving plot device in these movies. However, this kind of is that. This focuses on humanity, like very well what would happen if humanity does kind of cease with the laws and all of those checks and balances. And, you know, in the 28 Years Later, we met Samson, played by Chi Lewis Perry, who is an alpha, big hulking guy. When we last saw him, he got arrows to the chest from Aaron Taylor Johnson and he had some arrows in his chest. But this time there's something more here to be explored that I absolutely love. And it's, you know, in the previews, you saw, you know, Dr. Kelson, him and Samson meet up. Dr. Kelson is a doctor, and obviously. And so he's been really looking for just humanity. And it's all about humanity. This is very focused. So you have a lot of biblical. Alex Garland's very big on allegories, and this one is very biblical. So the cult of Jimmies, this movie kicks off with some very rough rough. Like, Spike has been rescued by the cult of Jimmy's, and as we see, there's a Saint Nick if you will, Sir Nick.
Oh, Nick.
Old Nick, that's what it was. Who's Satan? Satan, right?
Yeah. It took me a minute to like, once they said that, I was like, oh, yep, that's what, because it all
Yeah.
makes sense. Like the whole peeling flesh that happened, like it is an out and out kind of gory horror movie. And the horror isn't from where you think it is.
It's really not. And really, it is. So they're a satanic cult of Jimmys, essentially. They're all named Jimmy, and Spike has to basically fight to prove that he belongs. They're called Fingers, and he has to either kill or be killed. And if he kills, then he's in the cult. And Spike is very much, what the hell have I gotten myself into? And he ends up accidentally stabbing the dude in his artery right there in his leg. The dude bleeds out. He's now a Jimmy, but he's not down for the cause, because these Jimmys, they end up at, we meet this pregnant lady, what I can only assume to be her husband. And then, another member, they're in the woods. The older member turns into an infected. They kind of gloss over it and they go back to their house, which is all fenced in. Well, the Jimmys are there and it's very uneasy. They have them do the whole Teletubby. It's Maura Bird, I believe it is, who is there, and she does a Teletubby dance because, old Jimmy Crystal, Jack O'Connell, was very much stuck in that old 2000, whenever the first film kicked off. He's still that mentality.
He was 8. Like,
he was.
Honing in on the Teletubbies makes sense. Like, I'm a little bit too old for the Teletubbies, so
I'm not mine either.
It didn't necessarily, like, some of those didn't connect with me. Like that whole dance that she was doing, like it would just seem.
I had no idea what was going on.
No clue. Zero. I got the, like, in their bellies, the
TVs. Right? We've all seen Teletubbies. They're weird. They do have the TVs. You got the baby who's the son, which is even creepier to me.
Yeah,
all of that stuff, right? So we got that.
It's the horror motif quite well.
It does, because you have these child elements, right? And again, there's something so underlying what Alex and Nia, because she's the director, what she does so well is build up those tension moments. And we see it with the Jimmy gang. And anytime they're on screen, they're sadistic. I mean, everybody, excluding Erin Kellyman, who plays Jimmy Inc., she is actually from Falcon and Winter Soldier. You might remember her. She led the Flag Smashers. And she's
also in the Willow TV show. I noticed that as well.
Yes.
I loved that TV show.
I never got into Willow. That one missed me. I know they brought it back, but it's already off Disney Plus again.
Completely gone. You can't find it anywhere. And that show was amazing.
Such a shame, because I know Willow has a pretty big cult following too.
It really does. The movie was good. The TV show was good. And I was specifically going to bring that up because I love that show and they got rid of it and you can't find it anywhere. And that should be
it's a shame. It really is. And that's kind of my issue with streaming services, but that's neither here nor there. She's the only one that has a sense of humanity still. She kind of looks out for Spike. And so the family, it's Emma Laird, I believe, plays Jemima, I think is her name, how you say it. She's a pregnant woman. And so they love to do what's called charity. Now, charity, you hear in the, church world where you would think you're putting dollars in. No, Jimmy talks to old Nick, and they take them to the barn. They string them up because they wanted to, the Jimmys weren't welcome there for dinner. They try to fight back and they're strung up and they say t-shirts. And you're like, what does that mean? Oh, it means they skin their shirt. They skin them to basically be looking like they're wearing a t-shirt, but they take their skin off. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's extremely violent, and it really helps, again, drive home that point that the humans are the real horror element here. It's almost like part slasher. Zombies meet slasher. Like it brings in all of those elements, and it gets really, really violent, and it's very, very cerebral and mental too.
And I thought Nia did a great job too. She doesn't pull away from those very squeamish aspects, but she holds it just to the point where you're about to either look away if you haven't already, and you're very just sitting with that feeling. And then that's when she pulls away. She holds it just long enough to really drive home. And I thought that was a very big point in the directing. I noticed with the camera work and everything. Yep.
You have to like catch your breath, like, because you get that
you're up close, man.
It's up close, and your hands clench, and like your teeth clench, and then it's gone, and you're like, it's almost like a relief, right? Like almost like you feel their pain. And as a director's choice, like you said, I thought it was brilliant. It's good. It's well done. It's good horror.
It really was. Excuse me. It wasn't Jemima. Miriam Mack played Kathy, who's the pregnant woman. And then her presumed husband, Tom, is played by Louis Ashbourne Serkis. So I haven't looked up. Maybe there's a relationship there with Andy Serkis. I wouldn't be surprised. But he is left alive. And Jimmy Crystal offers him, hey, you can pick one to fight. And if you win, then you join us because we need somebody strong. While Kathy's looking from above, she had gotten away. She's watching it go down. And so he picks the Teletubby girl because Spike's outside with, the other, Aaron Kellyman. And so he goes to fight her, and there's that scene where she just digs the knife up the street on him. And it is freaking brutal.
Oh, it's really brutal. I'm pretty sure that's, I had to look it up because you mentioned it. I'm pretty sure it's definitely a relation of Andy Serkis.
I wouldn't be surprised. He does look very much like him, look in his IMDb. And so, but he goes to fight and known for out there. Yep. Okay. So he was from the Queen's Gambit, actually, by the way. And so he's been in some stuff. I have it. This is my first introduction to him. His parents, it doesn't look like he is a son of actors Andy Serkis and Lorraine Ashbourne. Okay, so yes, Andy Serkis' son, as we kind of all expected, and he does a good job in this.
We went on.
Yes, but it's really good. So he's about to be killed and murdered, and she, the Teletubby girl Jimmy, is on top of him, getting really sexual with it, and then she gets like this. I don't know what it's called exactly, but she gets it in the head.
A hook.
Yeah, it's basically a hook to like raise and lower things in the bar, and she gets it in the head. And then from there, he does something cool. He gets the propane tank and lights her on fire. He lights another Jimmy on fire, and the whole place, basically goes down. And Spike goes to get sent after Kathy, the pregnant woman, and kind of was going to ask her to take him with her, go with her. She kicks him in the balls and escapes. So there's a plot thread I think we're going to pick back up in the next movie. There's more there, right? There has to be.
Definitely. Because you can't, she escapes, but where to?
Right. You never see her again in this movie, but that was kind of a big plot point because this drives the Jimmies to then, because Aaron, she saw Kelson out there in red his iodine, and he was there with Samson, because Kelson, this whole movie, he's drugging up Samson, and they have this funny relationship. They're just sitting there, they're just palling around out there. Samson's on morphine.
Boys.
There's just two dudes high off their ass, hanging dong in the middle of the forest, and very tall bone structures. And this is where the funny elements, there's very good beats of the horror, but then they go to Kelson, and it's the musical choices in this movie.
Oh yeah. I
love the musical choices.
Oh yeah. It was great. And I like that whole element, because that is what gives 28 years later, the Bone Temple its humanity. It's like you said, she goes and sees them, and she assumes because he's in a bone temple and he's red and he's
it's all Nick.
Samson it's got to be the devil. That's the only thing that makes sense. And like all of the people that are Jimmys, they would have been born into it, so they have no idea. They have no idea about the outside world, and that goes back to that they don't know anything that's going on outside of England. So
no, there's no technology at all.
None. So the relationship with Kelson and Samson, the way that it develops, and it's Kelson wants to cure Samson, right? And I think where him being a doctor and the way that they progress that part of the plot, absolutely brilliant, because he realizes you're still in there. If I give
he was going to kill him.
Yeah, he was going to kill him. And then he realizes that if he gives him not anxiety, but like he's in psychosis.
He hits him with morphine. Yeah.
So he gives him morphine, but he also gives him like antipsychotic drug, and that helps clear him up. And when he does that, that's when it all comes. He realizes he can save them, that they're still people. They're just sick and clouded.
That was crazy to me, because when we meet Samson and his crew, they rip that dude's head off and he's eating brains. And then he hears Kelson singing. That's when they meet. Their whole drug and fueled plot device moves forward there. But then, Kelson was sitting there. He goes, I don't think I can cure you. He was going to inject him in the arm and kill him, essentially. But that's when Samson says moon. And I love the sound design there, because his voice is very deep, but he's fluttering eyes. He's looking at the moon and he says moon. And at that point is when he's like, wait, you finally spoke. And that's really when he's taking detailed notes. He realizes, psychosis, like, oh shit, this is huge, which I think this is something that most zombie movies, they kind of tease a little bit about, because they're not zombies. At the end of the day, there's a rage virus. It clouds their brains. It really, they're in there, but they're not in there. And this shows that they are in there. And then Samson's off on his self-discovery journey through the woods. And we get that train scene where he's sitting there. And it was really cool, because we go from when he was a kid, and then it flashes to him as an adult. And then he's like, no ticket. And so that's when we realize, oh crap, the zombies. No, he's not a zombie.
Yeah. And I'm a little upset we didn't get more of that scene, because my guy
just ripping him to shreds. Oh my God.
Dude, Lewis Perry did the best job, like by far, he has the fewest lines, but he does the most.
His acting is in the things that
It's
he
all here.
does.
It's
Yes,
all
it's
here.
his facial expressions.
It's in his eyes. And like in that scene you're talking about on the train, you see him kind of like flutter back to life, and you're like, oh, he's there. And it takes it in a completely different direction. And it's what's made me so interested in what happens in the next one.
Oh yeah, because he can't get infected again, because you see him getting bit. He's breaking backs on things. He's ripping their heads off. So he still has the strength, which I thought was massively interesting. And then it kind of cut scene and you're not sure what happens. You're like, there's no way he's dead, right? And meanwhile, Samson's out there doing this. The Jimmy show up. Jimmy Crystal, Jack O'Connell, goes down to talk to Kelson because he's like, let me go talk to him first. You know, it's my dad. I came to meet my dad. He realizes that he's just a dude. And they kind of come to a deal of pretend you're Satan, you know, say this stuff so that way these guys still believe me and I'm going to leave you alone. You get to live.
And
but if
based
you don't,
on
I'm
the
going to
fact
kill
that
you.
he liked
He did. This is perhaps the best scene in the movie to me because they're having conversation, and their conversation, there was a lot of, you felt like it was just a kid who never grew up because he didn't get a chance to. And so then you have Kelson who lived life, but he doesn't remember it kind of. And they're just talking. And he's like, I don't remember my dad. I was at this church. My mom and sister would have lived. They didn't. So I'm a Satanist essentially. And they just have this conversation of, it just feels like two human beings again. And that brings really into the humanity aspect of, can humanity be saved and go back to normal?
And I think the child psychology aspect of it, because what Jimmy does and the things like after being traumatized at 8, like think about children who have dealt with trauma growing up and how they react to certain triggers. And that would be exactly what it was for Jimmy. And it makes so much sense. And I know it actually, knowing that makes the end of the first one make sense. Like, because everybody's like, well, this just feels like Power Rangers, but he was 8. An 8-year-old who grows up and then stays an 8-year-old is never going to grow out of that. So it's going to be kind of ridiculous. And so it makes it make sense. It's a good bridge. But that scene that you're talking about between Ray Fiennes and Jack O'Connell is brilliant.
It is. The dialogue is incredible. And then that really takes us into, we do see Samson comes out. He's hanging dog again. He covered himself up because he's eating berries. He covered himself. Yes. Oh, God. I mean, he's hanging dong. And so he's out there. He leaves the train. He's covered in blood. You're like, oh, wow. All right. Samson's back. Let's go. And then you're kind of not really sure if Samson or if, you know, what's going on at that moment. But that's when we get perhaps the best musical number. They go down to in the flames. It's dark. You know, Kelson sets up the whole area to be very satanic, and he comes out in his paint. He's got Iron Maiden going 6
Number
six,
of the
6. And but these guys wouldn't have heard that song because number one, the kids grew up. This is all they know is this world. Yeah. And Jimmy, you know, Jack O'Connell grew up in a religious household, so he probably never heard Iron Maiden either. Ever. And so then they're doing this dance and he's blowing the morphine, like the crushed morphine, into their faces too, to kind of make that psychedelic and all that. It was such freaking fantastic dance number, dude.
It's one of the best scenes that I've seen filmed in a while, especially when it comes to music. If you think back to Sinners and the like music.
Jack O'Connell's in like the best musical numbers and two of the best horror movies to come out in the last year. It's really, yeah.
But that scene from start to finish is just good. And the way that he portrays it and the way that he like, I don't know, man, I like Iron Maiden. So
I do
like
too.
Iron Maiden and hearing Iron Maiden in movies, it's the best because you don't hear them as often as you do like other bands.
You don't. It's usually like Metallica or somebody like that who they spend money on to get, but then Iron Maiden gets, and it fits because again, like
Number of the Beast.
Yeah. And the way he uses the fire to really like create, and they're just into it. They're like, oh my God. And then he has to give the commandments, but then he recognizes Spike behind the Adidas or the shoe masks that they have, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I like that too.
I do too. And then he recognizes Spike, and that's when essentially he's like, I got to save Spike. And he says that they have to crucify Jimmy Crystal the way that Jesus was crucified, and a lot more allegories there, right? It's amazing.
I loved that because that's quick thinking, and in my brain I was like, well, if he really wants to get this guy, that'd be a great way to do it because you religious aspect. If he's going to fight back and push it back on any of that at all, that outs him as a fraud, so he's got to go through it. It's such good thinking on the spot.
And Jimmy Inc. was already thinking he was a fraud as is. Like she was already essentially, you know, he's a fraud. And so she's quick to jump to it, like crucify him. She kills the other two Jimmys. I thought was awesome. Like
Yep.
she cuts him, and then it really hits where Jimmy Crystal stabs, Kelson, and you're like, oh crap, oh man, what? But that is when Samson comes stumbling back in, and then he ends up, go ahead.
Well, I was to say, after they crucified him upside down, and that's like historically as far
Shout
as
out to Spike real quick though, because I did miss that Spike. You could see the brutality still there when earlier he was trying to run away. He kills the one zombie, but then he stabs Jimmy Crystal. And that's what really sets Jimmy up to be like, oh crap. And the Jimmy Inc. and Spike end up hanging Jimmy Crystal upside down. They nail him to a wood and a cross, and they hang him upside down to be crucified. And that was gnarly.
It was, and until you said it now, like I knew that he had been stabbed, right? And they showed that wound, but the first thing I thought of, because
that's where Pontius Pilate stabbed Jesus. Remember?
Yep,
yes, yes,
they did it exactly like the actual historical crucifixion of Jesus, but they flipped it upside down, and the cross being
they did everything reverse. Yes,
is the sign of the devil. If you know, again, going back to religious lore, I think it's either Peter or Paul, I think it might be St. Paul, who refuses to be crucified like Jesus. So he is crucified upside down historically as a factual thing that happened. And so that kind of becomes a symbol of the anti-Jesus. So crucifying him upside down has that religious allegory. 2, it would really suck.
He's hanging upside down, blood, everything rushing. But that's when Samson enters. And he speaks again, like to Kelson. He's like, thank you, Kelson. And he picks him up and carries him off. And that's kind of the end of this movie. And so I don't know if it leaves a lot open, because now Samson is fully awake. Kelson is dying, but it's one of those, you don't see him actually die. So when the next movie picks up, is he either going to die, right? Or this is another way we can go. Is Samson going to infect Kelson and then use his notes to bring him out of the psychosis?
That's I hadn't thought of that. That's good. I was already excited about the next movie because of like where things are going with Samson, where things like the cliffhanger we get left on. But that's a good point.
Because Kelson sat there and really dove into he wrote his notes every step of the way. And then if you got to think too, he was verbalizing everything he was doing to Samson. And much like when he got the pills, he explained it's a psychosis. So if I give you these, I'm going to give you these, and it should break your psychosis. So between the notes and him verbalizing, I really, really would love to see Samson infect him and then try to bring him out to show a cure. And then they have a way for, because now we have a cure for this. We know what this is. And now they have to figure out, like, are we going to get to the point where they go to the mainland and they're like, hey, we got this cure. Look it right here. And I wonder, but I think that might be what happens, and then we have Spike. We'll get to the final 2 minutes in a second, because that was
Now I'm upset on this one, because that's a good point.
I really, it is. I'm kind of wondering if that's what's going to happen. And then of course we think all is said and done, but dude,
big but
we get, what do we get?
We get Cillian Murphy. They bring back Cillian Murphy for the last 2 minutes. And they really set up that next film to tie 28 days later in. And
it's such a beautiful scene. He's, his daughter, she's sitting there and she's doing schoolwork, and he kind of gives her a hint of what's going to be on the test. And she's like, you're giving the test. And he's like, I'm not saying anymore. But then they hear something and they go out there, and then they see Spike and Kelly. She reveals her name to be Kelly, and they're running, being chased by infected. And the daughter's like, should we save them? And he goes, yes. And they go out to save him. And that's when the credit, then we get that classic 28 Days Later music, which I love that song so much.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that credit music, but it cuts to credits there. And I'm just sitting there. What? So we're going to have Cillian Murphy. There's so many things that we have for this final movie. Cillian Murphy's back. Samson's carrying around Dr. Kelson. They have a cure. And then Spike, we still have Aaron Taylor Johnson. Is he out there looking for Spike? Like, there's so many things that are going to happen.
It's going to be a big one. And like it was that movie was only 2 hours long, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot, but it didn't feel like 2 hours. When the movie ended, I was like, I mean, it's done already. It
also didn't feel rushed at any point.
It didn't. You move at such a smooth pace throughout the entire plot, and it was really well done. I am a Nia DaCosta fan
Oh,
from
same.
here moving on. She did an exceptional job. Like I'm about it.
I loved it. My letterbox score. Let's go into letterbox scores. I'm gonna tell you straight up. This is the first 5 out of 5 letterboxed scores on the year for me personally. I liked, you know me. I break movies down into different categories. So if it's a comedy movie, I'm not gonna score it the same as I would a film that's meant for the Oscars. I base like Anaconda. I give that a 4 out of 5 because in the comedy realm, that really did what I wanted to do. This movie for me, man, there's a lot of great camera work, a lot of great sound work, a lot of great dialogue and script work and just everything about it. So this was an easy 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, for me, I gave it a 4 out of 5
That's
because
still good.
it's still good. It was a good movie. Like
Yeah.
it had some hangups, and the way I approach movies is a little bit different from Matt. And really, my big change from like most people is I look at family movies a little bit different. I talk to my son about them, but everything else I kind of break down from the same category, even if it is a comedy, because a comedy can be it can be good too. I just saw this thing on that movie was funny, and it was incredibly dramatic, and it had a lot of elements. But I gave it a 4 out of 5. Which is really, really good. It sets up what's coming. There are a few places that I think, maybe we should have done more with. Maybe we shouldn't have left a cliffhanger here. Maybe we shouldn't have left a cliffhanger there. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it. It did what it was supposed to do. It got me excited for the next.
It was the perfect middle film because this was the middle film. And it sets you up for that big finale with a lot of questions. And you don't questions in the sense of you're not sitting there waiting on this massive cliffhanger like, Into the Spider-Verse kind of did, right? Yeah. This is more of a, whoa, we kind of got a definitive ending, but also at the same time, there are some cliffhangers there with this definitive ending. Like Jimmy's story, over, contained. Now where do we go from here? And I can't, man, I hope we don't have to wait long. I know there's a year between these movies, so I'm curious, are we going to have to wait just till next January? I haven't heard.
That's what I was thinking. Because I think the last one came out in June, and then
maybe it was June. Yeah, there really wasn't a long wait between. So I'm kind of hoping we don't have a long wait. I know they're not going to release in the same year again, so that would be really cool because they would have filmed back to back to back, maybe just to keep Spike at the same age and stuff, right? Like it would make sense.
That's what they did. That's why Bone Temple and that one came out at the same time. So they just shot, and then they're going back to Danny Boyle for the last one. So he's gonna. I believe that. I don't quote me on that one, but I think if you look it up, I'll be right. So I know they're going back to him, so he'll pick it back up, and then he's gonna bring it all in, right? So Bone Temple is a great empire, but really 28 years later is going to be a great Jedi. And I think when they bring all that stuff together, and you have all these plot holes that we don't know the answers to. Not that they're holes, they just haven't. They're loose threads that we need to tie up. Aaron Taylor Johnson, the pregnant woman who escaped. Like, I want to know what happens with some of these people. Like, you're right. I am sold, and that's what a good bridge movie does. That's why Empire is so good.
Yeah, there's a definitive ending, but the bad guys win in Empire, but it still feels hopeful at the end. Whereas this one, like the good guys kind of win, but there's still that whole. You leave it with, wait, there's still a lot of infected out there that aren't Samson, that aren't alphas. So how does it also play into the non-alphas and all? You're right. It's a perfect bridge movie.
And I listen. I want an Avengers-like team between Spike and Kelly and Cillian Murphy and Samson, right? Like, have him speak to them. Like, it's going to be wild when they run into him in out in the world and he speaks to them.
Yeah. Oh my God. Because none of them have seen him come awake yet because they were gone by the time Samson arrived. So
and Spike does have some familiarity, if I remember correctly, from 28 years later. The first
he ran into him, and because that was the drive. They got away from the Alpha. They were running back to from the Alpha. Yeah,
dude. There's some stuff. There's some stuff coming.
I'm pumped. I can't wait. And if we cut it between our two, 4.5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd, like. That's still a really, really good movie and a hell of a way to really bring in. I know we've got a couple other movies for 2026 so far, but this year is going to be stacked with movies. In this month of January is typically a dull month for movies, and that's not the case. We have a ton of good movies so far. So go ahead, nerdinitiative.com. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just to piggyback off of that, January is usually like where movies get dumped. And I have seen... I think this will by the end of the weekend, I'll have seen 6 or 7 of the movies that released this month, and all of them all of them have been good. The only one I
Absolutely.
didn't like was The Rip, and that went straight to streaming on Netflix.
I haven't seen that one yet. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I haven't seen that,
You're
but
good.
I mean, I'm gonna watch it. But you know, you're right. It's been a stellar year already for movies, and we have so many to come. So if you want to keep watching our reviews, Chris has some killer reviews both on our YouTube channel, Nerd Initiative, and then also our website, www.nerdinitiative.com. You can find us any podcast platform by searching Nerd Initiative, look for the logo, and hey, check out what we're doing, man. We've got so many people doing gaming. We've got comic books. We've got movies, streaming. We've got a ton out there. Check out our Night of the Seven Kingdoms after show. We've got some shrinking action. We've got just a whole lot going on, man. We've got a big giveaway for Fallout going right now with some really cool figures. So check it all out. Your home for pop culture is nerdinitiative.com. And until next time, we will see you guys later. Peace out.